People who try to control us, they use suicide police government. It flags up. It flags up. It's like red, red. As soon as you hear it, it's red, red in the mind. It's obviously something they use to control us. They ignore everything else and think that I'm just crazy and just really want to die. It's a big thing for them. They think, oh, I can cure it. I can end your pain or suffering. But there's something going on. There's something else going on. No matter how hard I try, they just see that in big red letters. They report it, but it's a waste of time. It makes me angry. So many people have like called the ambulance on me, and I've thought, get a fucking grip. Like, I get that you care, but obviously all that people see is that, because I am essentially being murdered. But like so many people have called the ambulance on me because immediately they just think, oh, red, 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 and that's how they manipulate us and they control us. Like, honestly. And I've thought, why the fuck have you done that? Like, there's something else going on. Like, pay attention to what I'm saying. But it just doesn't go in. They just can't read the words. There's a barrier to it, the barrier to understanding it. And they just think, oh God, like he's unhealthy. He needs help. There's something wrong with him. He needs help. He just needs help. And like, that's how people are taught. That's not gonna fucking help me. The actual problem is that I've got a fucking thing in my brain, like people observing me. This shit is possible. Our minds, like people's minds are engrossed with it. They assume it and they focus on it when I'm actually asking you to do something completely different. You know, to all the police doctors who ignored me and harassed me about these thoughts constantly, it was just blah blah blah, suicide, blah blah blah, you're self-harming, blah blah blah. And I was like, yes, but you know, it's actually to do with like the government. And people were like, yeah, but it just in one ear out the fucking other. So you want to commit suicide. And I'm like, even now, like somebody would watch this and all they're hearing is, you know, they're like, oh, that's all they hear, that's all that goes through. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's crazy. You know, people will struggle with understanding and not realise there's something else going on. It's because it's the government. And in our culture, suicide is seen as one of those things. It's like a weapon they use against us. It's, you know, I can't imagine somebody watching this and just being like, and like reporting it or something, flagging it, or like flagging a tweet and thinking they're helping. But that's obviously what you're taught to do, or what you automatically go to do, because they try to hide these things. And like, that's the easiest way to do it, is to like have somebody like, you know, it's obviously utilised by the police, the ambulance, by doctors. It's obviously the number one barrier for people understanding, manipulated into that sort of thinking. It's like, it's our consciousness, do you know what I mean? It's our consciousness. It's like, it is our being, it's our consciousness. But you need to pay attention to, you know, when they call the ambulance and they ask what's wrong, and they asked me the same, I was hospitalised about 6 times, and they asked me the same question every time, and I was like, first of all, I think I could do a better job than you. I'm more qualified than you. I know more about this than you. I know more about the mind. I have done for fucking years. They asked me things and it was so embarrassing. Doctors would say things to me and I think, God, like, are you really a doctor? Like, I'm sorry, but I'm 21 and I know more about this than you. And it's like, don't talk to me like that. I'm sorry, but that is so disrespectful. Like, don't tell me that when I'm experiencing this. It's pathetic. Get a grip, get a life. You know, I know more about the brain than you, definitely. I'm having these personal technological experiences. It is about, you know, in total, probably about 15 people who've trained their whole lives, and I felt so disrespected by them, and so angry, and like, God, like, there was one time I was on acid, and they took me to hospital when I was on acid, and I was in an experiment. I was being observed by these people. I was very sane. There were people who had like engineered the trip who were there. There were like staff there. The team was there. It was really funny. And they brought me there, and it was like, and they were like, we need to take you because you're unsafe. And I was like, I'm sorry, but I do not feel safe there, because they obviously just think you're just crazy. But a lot of people actually aren't that crazy, and they're actually pretty sane. Like, obviously acid, you know, you're not allowed to, you know, it makes you think more independently, it changes your consciousness. People obviously don't want people to have autonomy or whatever, the control over themselves, or use their voice. People mistake that drug for, oh, you're just insane, or like you're, it's going to ruin your life, you ruined your life with the drugs or whatever. And it was like, well, I've been a scientist, I've been with these famous people, I've been studied, like we've had fun, like they actually make me smarter, they've made it easier to like do the work I'm doing, like cannabis or whatever. It's offensive, like no wonder it is, the war on drugs or whatever, saying it's, it's bad for you. It genuinely is a known thing about the drug that people have, hidden for generations. It makes people more open, it makes people more social, it makes people less angry, it makes people happier. It's engineerable in the mind. It was like a custom trip that we did. It's agreed, it's a very spiritual drug. It connects you to people, it raises awareness, it makes you more conscious, it gives you more questions. The universe is very guided and intelligent. And people have been taught to be like, suicide drugs. And it's like, actually, that's like really great news. They hide like the possibility of these things being real. It's the fact that these things are real in the first place. And that, I'm just living in this sort of world where I know what's going on. And I can tell people that this is bullshit and you're thick. And and it is sort of crazy, and it is paranormal, and I can try to explain all these things to people, but it just doesn't go in. It's just in one ear, out the other, and I do walk away from people and think, well, they're just stupid. Or the government really affects our ability to actually be able to think for ourselves and believe these things. People, it's impossible for them to actually believe it or see it in me, because they do control our perceptions and our beliefs and things. It's a matter of belief, of believing these things and looking into my eyes and saying, well, was I physically able to, or was I deaf, was I blind and deaf when I read and heard what you said to me? Or was it the government's fault? Because they seem to use these things in our consciousness as like weapons to get people to be misunderstood. You think about mental health and schizos or psychosis, hearing voices. Like for me, I do have a technology or whatever, but I have often wondered whether people who experience, who are nutters or whatever, are actually a bit more sane. And, sectioning I find really scary, really threatening. Like I was sectioned for a day, and they wouldn't release me, and it was that I saw the ignorance in their eyes, and I saw the just them being completely ignorant in their eyes, and I was like, God, you really can't see this, can you? You're so blind. You are 50 people in a week who were blind. Doctor after doctor, I thought, you're blind and stupid. I lost my train of thought. And yeah, because I was poor and a student or whatever, and people thought, oh, you're probably you speak intelligently, you're very eloquent when you speak, you're very when you speak, you seem intelligent, you seem smart, but they just can't get through that final barrier where they're like, oh, right, I see. So the rest of it is subconscious. I don't remember what I was saying. Something interesting. Do they control our beliefs? Definitely. The most I've ever heard is somebody was like, oh, well, that sort of thing must be possible by now, should be possible by now. And that was somebody who's one of those people who thinks, oh, well, definitely that sort of thing, obviously that sort of thing happens, doesn't it? It's just crazy that it happened to me. And people, thinking it's, or when I was sectioned for a day, I was so God, this is crazy, because I'm actually the most sane person here. And they I would say, and doctors, they talk to me in a tone and say, well, oh no, well I did this, I know about this disease or whatever. And I'm like, well, no, but you don't. And it's just I'm so angry every day. I think, How many people are going to hospital or the doctors today to say I have this or whatever, or this is going on, and it's actually like, well, God, like, we don't, they're so unaware. They have to change the sort of the medical books or whatever. I'm just bored. Like, this was 10 minutes of me talking about, how I feel, and like, I'm still not saved. I've sent loads of emails today. I'm not rich. I'm in a council house, and they talk to me here, and I'm like, I know I don't belong here. And I've sent it to all these MPs and stuff, and I've been laughing about it or whatever, and like, I've done all this shit, and they're just not responding to me. They're not responding to my tweets either. I've been getting more and more like aggressive about it. I've been saying, you know what, you have murdered me. I've been like, in my emails, I'm like, you've murdered me, you've murdered me, you've murdered me. I'm tweeting all this shit. Somebody like flagged my tweet for suicide, and I was like, you don't, it's so like, flag it for suicide in the brain. And like, you could, I can imagine, literally, I know I've repeated it, but I could imagine somebody listening to that and just going, oh my God, like, and it's like, no, you're more affected by it than you think. I'm looking at trending, and there's all this stuff, and like, it's like it's the law. It should be illegal. It's like I've spoken to the police, and I say like, well, first of all, the crime is that they like hacked me, and the police are like, we have like other crimes or whatever. We have like better things to do. Like, why don't you just publish your book? Or like, they're really slow, or they don't bother, or they're really awkward, or they just take ages. And I'm looking into their eyes, I'm thinking, this is a genuine offence, like a criminal offence. When was the last time anyone here did their jobs properly? When was the last time anyone knew anything? It's like everyone's, and all these people or whatever, living their rich lives or whatever. I'm just scrolling, look. Living their rich lives or whatever. And, I see them in this sort of like, first world problems or whatever, but minding their own business, taking their pictures on Instagram, and I'm here like, being like mind read and like threatened and tortured and things, and they're just like, la 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 la, and I'm like observing it, like, God, like, you're going to look back and think, what was I doing during this time? And it'll be like, fucking hell, like, I was stupid, one man says.